Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Middle Class Rockstar. My name is Andy Sito. My guest this week is Grammy Award-winning recording engineer and producer out of Nashville, Tennessee, Zach Allen. All right, thanks for coming back. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening. This is a fun episode. Zach actually stepped into my home studio here in Nashville. It's fun when we get to do that because a lot of times, or most of the time, it's done over the internet. So it's fun when you actually get to see somebody, shake hands, take a picture. You know, it's awesome. So thank you, Zach, for making the trip. Zach has been recording in the Nashville area since 2007 after graduating from Full Sail. Some of his Grammy credits include Christone Kingfish Ingram and Keb Mo and Taj Mahal, amongst others. We're going to talk about all that, though, and more. And he kind of gives some insight on how to record a live show, and I found some of this stuff really, really interesting. He's got a great story. He's a hard worker. He's very ambitious. And if you're listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, you don't know that we sort of look very similar. I would say the hair, the glasses, the hairline. It's very similar, and we took a picture together that I'll post up on socials with this episode. So if you want to see my doppelganger, check that out. Anyway, let's jump right into the episode. If you'd like to support this podcast, give it a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It helps out a ton and just takes a moment. And if you'd like to support in a monetary way, I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/Andy Sito. Let's do the show. Interview. Zach, thanks for coming by.
Likewise, man. Thank you for having me. I always think the Zoom thing can be a little, I don't know, dehumanizing or whatever. So in person, have a real conversation, real people, real connection, it's always best. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Appreciate you making the trip. What part of town are you in?
I live in Mount Juliet. We moved out there in 2020. We were in Hermitage, just down the road, and we jumped the county line, just getting a little bit better, more favorable school district for my family. Got that low COVID interest rate, which was a positive. I think we're stuck there now. We're below 3%. So I think we're going to be stuck there. We love it. It's a very good family area. So it's growing like everywhere else around here.
Yeah. And a couple kids?
2 kids, Audrey 8 and Caden 4. So they, when I'm not working or trying to keep the wife happy, they keep me very entertained, and busy for sure. So
one of the things that I was thinking about before you even said it, before we started talking, was the name Zach Allen. Mm-hmm. I thought, that sounds like a country star. And it probably is, right? There's probably a country, I don't know. There's somebody in music with that name, but you were telling me about all the Zach Allens you found.
Yeah, there's a company, a carpet company here in town, Buddy Island Carpet, and I guess apparently his son is goes on the radio. Hey, Zach Allen for Buddy Island Carpet here, and then there's a defensive lineman for the Broncos. There's another writer named Zach Allen, and I've even gotten like text from people that I know that were looking for the other Zach Allen. So I've even thought about like going online and like cutting like an old school like Hulk Hogan promo and like, hey brother, I'm the Zach, but I haven't been bold enough to do that yet. But like, don't mess with, dude, you taking my name, dude, whatever. But it is what it is. Kind of like I was saying, it's too far gone. All my credits and everything are under Zach Allen. So I just got to roll with it at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's working for you.
Okay, I guess. Yeah.
So one thing I want to jump into right away, and I want to get into how you got into all this and your time at Full Sail and moving to Nashville. But one thing I want to chat about right away is how things have changed since you started. I guess it was 2007. Been almost 20 years you've been engineering and producing in the area. I know technology has come a long way. A hack like me who's not a real engineer has everything I need to, to make stuff at home. There's been so much change in the landscape. So how has your job changed over the last 2 decades in terms of who you work with and things like that?
Well, I think part of it is your credibility. So, when 18 years ago when I'm starting, I'm just hoping to get any crack in any window to open. And so the first little sliver of that was I was interning at a studio called The Tracking Room. Keith Urban just bought it, reopened, and I think rebranded it as The Sound, I believe. If I correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, that was kind of how I started. So my role in that sense was intern. You're doing what you need to do to make sure that the studio has what they need. And you're just trying to build any kind of credibility, any kind of network you can. And then you get a little opportunity to do a background vocal session, and then you get an opportunity to tune a vocal. And so like that kind of, you do a good job at that, and you do a few of those, and then you graduate to a vocal session. So that's the first couple of years. Then fast forward about 3 years. Then at that point, I'm fully embedded. I would say I'm tracking, I'm running sessions, all that kind of stuff. I think, the antithesis of your question, though, is like, how has it changed technologically speaking? I've noticed that the tools obviously make it a lot easier to get there. I think certainly the vocal tuning software has gotten a lot better. You don't hear any T-pain, It was a lot harder to not hear it, essentially, back when I was starting. Like you had to find ways to kind of make it more human, and I still do. You in every singer, it's funny when you write something I use auto-tune, but not the auto way. Most people are Melodyne guys, or I find, but I just learned on that. So, but you see all their little, I guess, traits, how they sing, and you kind of have to figure out, okay, well, he's scooping up or she's scooping up, and you want to maintain that human aspect, because I think that's what connects people with audiences. So that's changed a lot, obviously. Where it's going, I don't know. I'm hoping we don't have to say those two vowels together, that everybody's talking about, and give credence to those. It is inevitable, but I don't know where that's going, to be honest. So it definitely, now you can just go on something like Arcade or Splice and just get a great start to a track, whereas you might have to create that. You might have to like lay a little guitar part down and put 5 plugins on it to kind of make something spacious and cool.
Yeah.
So it continues to change. I mean, for me personally, I think we've got enough technology to last a lifetime. If nothing else was invented, I think there's more than enough. Why do we need more? But who am I to say?
If nothing else was invented, we have a lot of amazing things as it is.
Sure.
So do you think about, speaking of the two vowels, do you think about that in terms of, I mean, does it worry you at all about a day when someone clicks a button in their, well, I guess Logic already has it for mastering, right? You click a button and your track is mastered. Mm-hmm. Is it as good as hiring a human to do it? I don't think so. But is that something that you worry about in a day where there's that tool for mixing? Maybe there already is. I don't even know. If there is, I don't use it. But do you think about that in terms of the future at all?
Well, I think you have to be aware of it. It's to say I don't worry about it. I think I try not to worry about anything. That's the goal every day, is because I think when we let our thoughts kind of run wild, we can worry about all kinds of stuff and build all kinds of thoughts in our head and stories. And that's all they are most of the time, is just stories. I think it's going to happen to what degree, I don't know. It's hard to not at least be a little concerned, for sure, about it. I do think people are still going to want to make music, because I think music in and of itself has a very powerful quality about it, and it just heals the soul. It's the universal language. You can go to somebody in Bangladesh and put on Beat It, and that beat comes on, and you can look at them and be like, huh? And then, huh? and they know, you know, they feel it, and there's something very powerful in that. And can AI recreate? I don't know. I'm not gonna try to give any credence or any prediction as to what's gonna happen. I think I just try to do the best I can do today, and hopefully we can come to a place where it's like, hey, enough already. Let's put ourselves through the ringer a little bit. You know, everybody wants something for free. Everybody wants something cheap and fast and all that, and I'm certainly not gonna come on here and say I'm great, but I've always aimed to be great, and I know there is no shortcut to greatness, you know. And I think the more we lean on that as humans, we're kind of just cutting ourselves off at the knees.
Well, I do think that, you know, I still, you know, as you see on Instagram or whatever, everybody can put out a song now, right? The bar of entry has gotten incredibly low to make something and put it out. But when I see something great where you can tell that there's, I'm not even going to say the word virtuosity, but just genuine, when there's something in it that is original, unique, genuine, that couldn't have come from a machine. It had to have come from a person. That's really special. And you really get to be part of that with a lot of artists, right? In the producer and the engineer chair.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I always encourage artists to be as vulnerable as possible, because I mean, I get tired of all my isms, but I mean, one of the ones I say every conversation I have is like, we sell emotion. That's basically what we do. You know, you got to kind of take the song, and even if you're writing it, it's a concept. You kind of have to define, what is the song about and what is it saying, and we have to pour as much emotion into that, into the lyrics, into the performance, into trying to get that out of vocalists. That's why I love to do vocals in the room with the artist, like on headphones, because I can inject my energy into them and kind of like just have a better sense of what they're doing, maybe what they're not doing, what they can do better, and just kind of like go with them on that journey. And so, yeah.
When you say in the room, as opposed to behind the glass, behind the board, you're actually sitting in the ISO booth.
Like we would be doing a vocal here, and like I might be sitting over there in the chair pressing record, and we would both have headphones on, but there's no booth. You know, it's just ultimate connectivity. And I've got my lyric sheet, and I'm listening to you, and I'm saying, hey man, yeah, you know, this is good, but I don't quite believe it, or you know, your vowels might be a little too, you're hitting this A a little hard. A lot of you'd be surprised, singers, how much emphasis you put on vowels and how you can change your accent, your tone of voice. I've actually like worked with foreign artists, like I did an Italian guy's blues record a couple years ago, and I actually produced his accent out of him. And you do that by putting the emphasis on the vowels. He might talk, you know, I'm not very fresh on my Italian, but you know, like right now, like I'm usually pretty good at impersonating, but like when it's not fresh, I'm kind of on the spot here. You know, you can like get a sense of like he's saying his A's too hard or his E's too hard, or you know, like certain cultures don't have like the Z, you know, whatever it is, you kind of get that sense, and then you kind of just guide them through it, and you can get it to where you can almost not even hear it. It's pretty cool. And so, yeah, I mean, I forget the original question, but you know, it's about the more emotion we can pour into the song, from the song itself, the performance, even, and especially when mixing it. Like I try like getting like let's just boost this guitar, even if it's for just a split second in between the vocal, call and response. It's worked for over 100 years, and it's always going to work, you know? And so like, those are the things that kind of keep the song moving, keep it interesting, you know?
So if you're sitting in the room while they're doing vocals, which I think is pretty cool, do you have somebody else then working Pro Tools or Logic during that?
I do it all.
Oh, you just bring it out?
Well, I'll just have them in the control room with me.
I see.
Yeah. So we might have a headphone box or whatever, and I'm just sitting at the rig. I'll get a sound. I'll get like a level, and I pretty much know that I need a 1073 and a distressor. I kind of know roughly where to set it, and I'll see how it's responding to the singer, and then once that's set, I'll run it, and then I've even taken it a step farther and tried to like comp as I go. So there's a thing in Pro Tools. I think Logic has it as well. It's called Playlist View in Pro Tools. So every time I'm doing a new take of a section, it's going down. But I instead of just it covering up the previous takes, they're all there.
Yeah.
And then on my lyric with a pencil and pen, I'm like O2 for this line, or I'll just kind of make notes, and then I'll double check because a lot of times
you put it together and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're hearing it on headphones, it might come across differently in the speakers. But yeah, man, I almost have gotten to the point where now I haven't done a vocal the other way in a long time. And if I got a sense of the singer being like having a lot of nervous energy, or maybe not, that might be too much for them, then I would be sensitive to that. Because you always have to have your finger on the pulse. So like, what's going to yield the best results?
Yeah, right.
With the musicians, with with everybody, and be sensitive to their personalities and what is going to work for them, because it's ultimately their record, not mine.
Right.
So.
Well, and that's a producer call too, right? To be able to say, this is how I like to do it, but I got to pivot here for the.
I've always just like had that mindset. Like, I think I was born with enough natural ego to where like I am constantly like trying to keep my ego in check, and trying to not be just arrogant and things like that. So it's like being sensitive is something that, because I think artists by nature are very sensitive, right? They're creative beings, and they, there's their song, it's their possession, and you want to like be sensitive to that and try to like, okay, this is an actual living, breathing thing, and how can I serve that song and serve that situation and have them leave this project, leave me better, more educated, more aware, just trying to grow. Like I love to teach and love to help people grow in that regard,
So let's talk a little bit, delve into production and engineering a little bit. So you do both on most of your projects?
Yeah, I think I did one last year. I hired a friend of mine, Bobby Holland, just to track it. That was the first time, and that was and he did great. That was a big departure. It was just kind of like, for the sake of like, I just want to see what he's doing, because I was a fan of his work, and is there anything that I'm missing? And what I found was like our sensibilities were almost exactly alike, in terms of how we record things. So yes, on things that I produce, I have pretty much been I'll have an assistant on the tracking date, and I've gotten to a point now where I'll have somebody run Pro Tools. I'll get the sounds and they run Pro Tools when I've got a room full of musicians and stuff, because then I'm just listening, and I can sit there and like with a pencil, and during the take I'll jot down every thought I have, good or bad. Dude, that what you were doing the second verse was amazing. More of that. Can we pump the bass a little more? There's feel in the space between the notes of the bass. I want to hear more of that. Or your tone's too gooey. Like I'm hearing too much compression on your bass. Or like that hi-hat, whatever it is, like everything, like I just jot it down in real time, and I'll try to like jot it down in like mumbo jumbo, just enough to where I can like get it on a paper so I can remember it, but like get back to hearing, because I might miss something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'll track it sonically. It helps me when I'm mixing, but if I've tracked it, because it's pretty much the stereo width, just the stereo image rather of the drums are where I would want it. They're not tracked like a lot of guys, for instance. I don't know if you've seen, they'll measure, and the left hi-hat mic and the right hi-hat mic are the same distance from the cymbals on each side of the kit. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, sure.
But like for me, I just want them the same depth from the floor. It's, things like that. I mean, and it's just, pick your poison. It doesn't really, it's just what you're used to. So yeah, I'll do that. Have started hiring out for some of the editing. I like to teach guys or girls how, kind of the ways I like to do it. And the hard part about growing your business is like by the time you teach somebody, they're on to the next thing, and so and then mix and like do all the vocals, get the lead vocal, get the background vocals. So yeah, kind of very hands-on. Yeah.
So a lot of the way you produce, a lot of the production is also in the mic placement and stuff, being really hands-on with that.
Yeah, so to back up a little bit, the way I produce, I start with the song, and anytime I'm having that conversation with an artist, a potential client, it's like, I want to hear your song, and I want to hear it in its rawest form. That means an iPhone recording. Don't send me a demo, because like it's probably going to be trying to do what I do, and I'm just going to be like, oh, that sounds so bad the whole time. I'm actually going to miss the song.
Yeah.
I want to hear the song. I think some people listen to music, they're naturally like lyric people, and they like are into every single lyric. Some people are melody people. Some people are track people. I kind of tend to like lean into that more like melody, the feel of the song. I mean, I think growing up the early 90s, the grunge era, I still don't know what they're saying in a lot of those songs, but I've heard them thousands of times. It's a vibe. It's a thing,
Yeah.
And so like coming to Nashville, which is a very lyric, I mean, it's kind of, when I first started, that going back to your original question about how it's changed, I remember like I would have to mix the vocals so loud, like just like the tracks like tiny, and then the vocals huge. It's kind of gotten a little more reasonable on that front, but that was one thing I had to adjust to a little bit, So, sure. But I'll listen to the song and with a lyric sheet, and I will break it down and just anything intuitively that I feel like could be better, from a lyric, a rhyme scheme inconsistency. It's like, hey, you're in the first verse, you're rhyming. Lines 1 and 3 are throwaways, and lines 2 or 4 rhyme. In the second verse, lines 1, 2, and 3 rhyme. So. And then 4 is a throwaway.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But you need to be aware of that.
Yeah. Is it intentional?
Yeah. In this verse, you're talking in the first person. In this verse, you're talking in the third person. You should probably keep it consistent throughout the song.
Yeah.
Because that's songwriting,
Right.
and that's getting. So I try to make the songs bulletproof to where you can pick up a guitar or piano and sing it and they sound great, because I think those are the best songs. That's always a lot of modern production. The production's so great that it tricks you into thinking it's a great song. It's not really that good of a song. It just sounds cool.
Yeah.
And so like I try to make the songs great first, then you cast it like, who are your influences? Like and I like Taylor Swift and whoever, and then, okay, well, I know the people that played on those records. So let's call them, or I like this guitar player and this drummer, and you try to cast it based on the musician's ability, but even more important to me is the energy they bring. Yeah. I don't I'm ADD enough. So like super ADD musician, like I bring enough of that to a session myself. Yeah. Right. So like I try to like just have my finger on that pulse, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just guys that I know and girls that I know will bring the right energy and bring a good experience to the artist, because this shouldn't be anything but the most amazing experience of your life. We're making records in Nashville, Tennessee with some of the best musicians in the world. This should just be a freaking blast and nothing short of it. And so that's what I try to do. I mean, it might sound a little corny, but it is a little bit like a customer service thing. I want it to be fun, because if they're having fun, I'm having fun, everybody's having fun, you know? And so that's kind of the approach. But yeah, it is a placement, like, you know, if I hear a song and I'm kind of envisioning like Fleetwood Mac Dreams drum sound, very dry, yeah, I'll mic it a certain way versus big open roomy sound. I'll do, you know, put more emphasis on the room mics or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So and you kind of craft it that way, and a lot of that evolves as they go. Like, I will respond, like a guitar player might play something and I like it, but I know I'm gonna want that doubled, and they'll say, "Well, I turn up my first part. I did that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know you did that, but I want it doubled because I want it on both sides." It creates a chorusy thing that I like.
Or you can tell them you want it doubled.
Yeah.
If they really liked their take, but you don't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's like I can kind of see the road and see the end of the road, I think, quicker than a lot of people, because I can hear it, and I know how things are going to translate when I kind of get in the lab.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. Let's back up a little bit to how you got into engineering and production. I know you were a Full Sail student, ended up coming to Nashville in about 2007. What was it? A song, a record, a phase that you had when you were younger? You said, "I want to do this."
Yeah, well, I wanted to be Dave Matthews, you know, to be honest. I
As
thought,
an artist.
As an artist,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I used to be the guy that would play cover songs in the bars with acoustic guitar for 4 hours. And I wanted to be in a band so bad. I was like right out of school. So in high school, I was kind of a jock and like really into like aggressive music, whatnot. And this is a total funny story. I don't think I've ever told this on the record, but I'll tell it to you. Why not? So 3 days before I graduate high school, we went to, like, we had a House of Blues in my hometown, which is a great venue, really a lot of cool, you know, acts and whatnot. But some friends of mine were like, "Hey man, Henry Rollins is playing the House of Blues." And it's like, I know like one song of Henry Rollins. I don't care. You know, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we go, and I mean, I was pretty hammered, I'll be honest. You know, I'd had a lot of beers. And nobody was there, which, you know, for the mosh pit thing, like, which is what I was into.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst thing you can get, because if you get nailed, you're gonna eat it pretty hard.
Yeah.
I got blindsided by this biker 3 days before, and like completely spun around and tore my ankle, like tore the ligaments in my ankle. And so the whole summer after that, I was like stuck. So I was like, maybe I'm gonna give this hippie thing a try, you know, like this meathead music's a little much. So really got into Dave Matthews. That whole summer just started really, I'd already been playing for about 6 years playing. I mean, I wasn't any good at all, but I wrote my first song, which is so bad now. Like, I hope it never sees the light of day. It won't. But you know, just kind of started stirring the pot a little bit, and then tried this, tried that, and just could never find the thing. And then fast forward about 6 years, got to a point where I was playing the gigs and whatnot, but just could never find the band thing. And at that time, there wasn't an audio engineering program at every school like there is now. And so this girl I was working with made me aware. She's like, "You should go to Full Sail." I'm like, what's Full Sail? She was like, "I was like a boat," and I went home and looked, and like at that moment, the path became very clear.
Yeah.
You know? And they do a behind the scenes tour every month. So my parents and I went down to check it out about 3 months later. And that was it. I was like, I've got nothing here. I'm 24. I'm mid-20s at this point. I have no direction. I'm going for this. And I at that point, my life changed. I completely, you know, I've almost like all the social aspect of my life just went away. And it was like, I'm going to go and try to be really, really amazing at this. And that's essentially how it happened. I went there for 12 months. And about month 7 or 8, I kind of figured Nashville, because it was LA, New York, Nashville. Didn't want to. Economically speaking, it made the most sense to come here. Plus, I'm from the South, and so I felt like I would probably fit in culturally the best here. So I got here and showed up, didn't know one person, and took about 8 months to land that internship that I was talking about earlier, and got in, and that's kind of where it all started.
And you eventually became the head engineer at that studio that you
Correct.
interned at.
Yeah. So I mean, started out interning, and to any if you have any young aspiring producers or aspiring anything, I think when you're going into an internship, I remember the fella named Jeff Glicksman who produced Kansas, Carry On My Way. He came and talked at Full Sail, and I asked him, like, what's the magic ingredient to breaking in? Because that's the hardest thing is like that, just getting that first opportunity. And he told me something I never forgot, and it was like, you have to make yourself irreplaceable. Like, your internship's up. Well, who's going to do the whatever it is? And so, like, I kind of, like, tricked him into hiring me, more or less. And then, crazy small world, like 15 years later, he calls me randomly, heard something I did for an artist he knew, and called me to hire, because he was managing this group called Chapel Hart, who was on America's Got Talent, called me to mix for and I was able to tell him that story. It's really cool, so.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so you've been in town for a long time. You've gotten to work with some really cool people, and we were chatting a little bit before this about the Grammy nominations, right? You've gotten some credits. You've got 11 nominations now?
Yeah.
And between 3 and 5 wins, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, that's one of people's favorite questions. So how many Grammys have you won? And I always say I have 3 statues. I did vocals on a Buddy Guy record in 2018. I was a vocal engineer, and you don't get a statue. You get a statue based on, like, I think you've contributed over 51% to this record, I think. So you get a certificate for that. And then last year they did a record for Jimmy Carter. It was a spoken word sort of record where they took a lot of his old Sunday school sermons and put it to music. And so they had Keb play a song on it. So I actually got to fly to Boston, which was insane. I love the city of Boston, by the way. It's really one of my favorite places I've ever been. And he did the old hymn, Blessed Assurance, recorded mixes just acoustic. It's one of the coolest things we ever did.
Wow.
And put that, like, dubbed that in with his sermons and that one. And because it was only one song, I didn't get a statue for that. So is it 3? Is it 5? I'll let you decide. Either way, I'm very blessed, so.
It's a heck of a batting average either way.
Yeah, So, maybe some of the big country labels will figure out, hey man, if we hire this guy, I don't know. So, so one day, yeah.
Well, in a couple of those records too, to kind of delve into him a little bit. I mean, you've worked with Keb Mo a lot.
Yeah.
He was my very first show when I was 7 years old.
That's so cool.
He did an E-Town taping at the Boulder Theater in Boulder.
Okay.
And I was just a wee squee. And
what year is this, do you think?
98.
Okay, gotcha.
So Just Like You, I think he was still touring on Just Like You at the time.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I loved it. And it was that thing where my dad would take me on Sunday nights a lot of times just because we knew the music was going to be good. Even if we didn't know a lot about the artist, it was a curated radio show.
Okay.
We knew it was always going to be good. And Keb Mo was the first one.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And I think what a great influence for a musician starting out to get to start with somebody like that.
Man, I could sit here all day and talk about what he's meant to my life. And, like, it's funny. I mean, I've never seen a human as giving as him, and it's not just to me. I mean, like, there's a whole group of us, musicians, singers, that he's kind of, like, just lifted us all up, and we talk about that all the time. And it's funny, I was talking to my wife the other day about, like, I think I went back and listened to something that I produced before I started with Keb. So I think I started with him around late 2014. And it had elements of cool, there was good stuff in there, but I just, it was a thing that I said in the moment, and it kind of, I was like, I hadn't been to Keb University yet. And it's true. I mean, it's like going to a college, like what I've learned about production
Yeah.
and feel, and like, and the things that his tendencies and sensibilities and and it's never the same. I mean, he has some stuff but he's always trying to push it, and it's very inspiring. And he doesn't always know where he's going until he gets there. He just knows it's not there yet, But we've had some we've done some really great records. I was actually listening with my kids to Good to Be 2022 last night, and my daughter's to the age now where she's actually like asking me questions about, like this song or that song, and it's really special. But as much great music as we've made together, I mean, we've been through personally a lot of things together, I would say, where we've shared a lot of things, and I'm so thankful for that relationship and what he's meant to me. So thankful. I don't know if you were aware, he had heart surgery last year, and, came out. And so going and seeing him, like being with him the night before he's going in, and, I mean, it's real stuff, it's like, it makes everything we do seem pretty insignificant. But thankfully he came out, and, I'm so thankful for him, what he's meant to my career, my life, and my family.
And you worked on the Taj Mo collaboration too with Taj Mahal, correct? And I think they have something else.
Both records, yeah. So that actually, the first session I ever did with him was the horns for the first one. First day. And I mean,
wow.
It was like, so you go in and like, I mean, I've heard the stories, because I mean, everybody knows he's one of a kind in the studio, and he gets in, and he's the horn arranger's got this horn, and he gets in, and they run a take, and he just is crapping all over it. You know what I mean? Like, in a nice way. It's just like, and he's just changed it. He'll sing the part to him. He's like, no, it's not, no, that's too Vegas. It's da-da, and like the poor guy just beating sweat and like trying to write it on
so
a
he's
step.
having to rewrite the arrangement in the studio.
With 3 or 4 guys sitting there.
Oh, man, that would be so stressful.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are.
This is my first session, and I'm just like, oh, Lord, man, and we worked on that record for a long time.
Was he able to get the arrangement right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, somewhat, and then he still might. We'll chop it up, move things around like crazy, and nobody's above it. Like, you wouldn't believe. I will tell you off. You wouldn't believe the level of musicians. We call it, I mean, it's turned into a verb. We call it getting kebbed, because like nobody's above it. Literally everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him do it. I'll tell you off game, but it's pretty great, because I mean, I think a lot of it, he wants to see if you're willing to go on the journey with him.
Yeah.
It's like, it's especially when you're first starting out. Are you willing to go on the journey? Are you going to get in there with me?
Yeah.
And it's like he's kind of figuring out, can I trust this person or not?
Yeah.
So
he and other musicians that are phenomenal musicians are willing to do a lot of editing in the studio.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's we've joked, or I mean, some of the meat he's left on the bone, you wouldn't believe. And but that's what he gravitates towards. Like, I think maybe things not being super, he doesn't want anything that's going to be distracting, from the record. So he does tend to, I found in the records, like, make it pretty, I don't want to say, it can be tame, but everything's going to be right on the money. And it's a lot of the old school way of doing record, or, I mean, when we went to do Oklahoma, that record was supposed to just be him and a guitar. like Robert Johnson, doing like just that was what that record was going to. So we spent the first 3 days. We went through every mic, every DI, every guitar, everything. 3 days to get the best acoustic sound, and we ended up with a 57 on the 12th fret. Swear to God.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. That's what he liked. Because
Yeah.
it's, those aren't super like beefy like one of these. They're not going to have a lot of extra low end, or, with acoustic, that's always tricky. The proximity, the low end coming off the wood, So it was just, it's going to sound, that's what we ended up with, So, I mean, we've done it all, man. And I've done that to the other extreme with different people where I've like recorded 35, 40 demos literally in a day with a band. And so it's like Jekyll and Hyde,
Yeah. So now, do you ever get in situations where you get really nervous because maybe that thing that happened to the horn player in the Keb session is happening to you on the spot? We're like, I need this different. I need this different. Have you ever? Are you always able to find your element? Have you ever been in any situations, maybe even when you were younger, where you're, red in the face in the session, like, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to navigate?
I think certainly early on when you're first starting, because the pressure's higher. If this goes wrong, they'll just find the next guy. Everybody wants this job,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those were like the studio when I was at the tracking room. It had been really just kind of left in ill repair. And the guy that owned it didn't want to spend any money. So, we just kind of had to. I remember one time, I'll answer your question like full up, but like this is kind of just paints the picture. I came there, it was raining, and like in the kitchen, in the lounge area, and like we had the drop ceiling and there's water dripping. So I like move the thing and there's just like a hole in the tin roof. It's literally just like pouring down. But like he didn't want to spend any money. He thought like that you already have a 7,000 square foot studio.
Yeah.
Like that's enough. You figure it out, And so like we did. I was like, and like the other guys were just like staring at it like a problem. I'm like, what are you doing? Get some freaking caulk, dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can't just let it sit there. You got to. So. There were situations like that where, the patch bay is like really scratchy, or I remember one time, one of the first sessions I engineered, of all things, we had the computer was in like a separate room and there was like this big USB extender and the mouse went out. The mouse of all things. And like we had Brent Mason was in the room. They were paying him triple scale for the session. And like we couldn't get the mouse to work, and literally like we had to like just to get it, I had to like take the keyboard. The engineer had to go in, plug the computer. We left the doors open, and I'm like relaying like the spots he wants to punch. So like those kind of things like made me nervous. What I came to realize that over the years though is like the world's not gonna end. None of this shit, the world's not going to end. And like the more nervous you get, when you just stay cool, like it'll work out. Like, cause I've had some pretty, with hard drives and stuff and like files, I've had some pretty crazy. I just had one actually. I had to wipe my whole rig. I still don't know what happened. But you can either make an enemy of the situation and like make it into more it is, or you can just embrace it and say, this is what it is. And when you embrace it, it tends to just, the tires just go smooth on the road,
Yeah. Yeah. Now I want to talk about genres a little bit, because I know you've worked in all sorts of different genres. Do you ever feel like you got pigeonholed into a certain genre because, a lot of the Grammy stuff is in the blues realm? Did you ever feel like I've gotten pigeonholed into this thing and I would like to expand out and do more of that thing? Have you ever felt that at all?
I think, I don't know if I felt it. I've wondered it. I do know some of my peers, I think, he's a blues guy or whatever, but I've done more country than anything. I think it's it just depends on people. You have to just be the best you can be, and sometimes you have to show people, because people will, if you don't show people how you want to be perceived, they will come up with their own perception of you, right? So you have to figure out a way to kind of make people aware that you can do more. And so I don't know. I'm always wanting to grow and do more things in the blues and in other genres. I always kind of wanted to be like a hands-on version of Rick Rubin. Like Rick Rubin did hip hop and
Yeah.
because hip hop and hard rock and Tom Petty and Johnny Cash. And the reason he always made that work is because same thing. I'm not putting myself on his level, but I understand that music production is all psychology. That's all it is. And so like it's kind of like I talked about earlier. It's about understanding the song, understanding the message, and how to get that best performance, regardless of the genre. And so like I think I could do any genre because I understand that it's about feeling and making people feel when they hear this, and finding ways to trigger that emotion. So.
It's interesting you bring up Rick Rubin. We were talking about AI. I'm not going to try to quote him, but I found something he was saying about AI the other day, and I said, pretty much whenever he opens his mouth, it's right on.
Yeah.
I know he gets clowned on for being such a hands-off producer sometimes, right? Showing up at the studio at the end of the day, but you can't. The guy's done amazing things. His book is wonderful.
Yeah. I like when I was growing up, every record I bought was either him or Brendan O'Brien. I swear, and it wasn't like I was like a fan. I didn't even know what a music producer was when I was in junior high.
It just happened that way.
It just like something about like those Chili Peppers records, or STP or Rage Against the Machine, any of all those like those two guys sonically, it was just something that triggered for me. I don't know. So.
Have you gotten to work with either of them?
No, I wish. That'd be amazing. Yeah, one day maybe. Who knows? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm ready. They know where to find me.
Yeah. I want to talk about the logistics a little bit of a studio record versus a live record.
Okay.
Obviously, they're very different, and you've done some live stuff.
I have.
So when you're going into that, I mean, what's going through your mind? What are the big differences
for a live
there?
record?
Yeah.
Man, okay, well, I'll just speak to the most recent one because that's the most popular one, the Kingfish Live. So
yeah.
That happened to be in London, and so logistically speaking, I got the venue information from the manager, and they had like a rider of like, these are the mics we have, and it's like, okay, so I know that will work. I can bring this mic. Basically, it got to a point where it's like I wanted a few extra mics. And then you have to say, after you kind of look at all that stuff, you have to say, okay, and they had capability to record. They had just like a digital split off kind of a thing. And so I say, hey, I can do that. We can get it in, but you're flying me halfway across the world to do this.
Right.
Like, can we do this right? And so and then you say, this is what I would like to have. I would like to have an XLR splitter. So what we did was the mics off the stage went into an XLR splitter, and so then 3 ways actually. So like one, they go into this and they come out 3 different ways. One set down front of house, one set to my primary recording rig, one set to my backup recording rig. So I had. And this was recommended by the company I found. So I had to find a company in London to rent 24 channels of preamps, because that's what it was. It was a 24 channel. That was their stage plot. So I had to find that, a couple mics, Pro Tools rig, all that kind of stuff. Had to make sure it was delivered. This is all London. And then like, on top of talking about stress, and I reached out to that venue, I think 4 to 5 times.
Yeah.
Nothing. So the night before, and thankfully I was like, I've got to have an assistant. Can I bring a guy? So I brought a friend of mine over to help me set up. Night before, I have no idea who's running front of house. Monitors. I have no contact with them at all. I just knew that like call time was like noon or whatever. And so I just said, I told him, he was a young guy, and this was a good teaching experience for him. I was like, okay, we're going to get one of two things. We're either going to get guys that are great and they're just, maybe this is their culture, maybe they're more relaxed, or we're going to get this my way kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the main goal, first and foremost, we got to get them on our side, you know. And so you go in, hey man, how you doing? Respect, you know, and you get them working to, like, you're doing this, that's cool. This is what I would like to do. So how can we make that work? And he was pretty much cool with everything. He wanted to use a different guitar cab mic or something. So his mic went into him and mine did to me. That was it. And so, but logistically, it's a lot. And so even all that preparation, we get there, the company delivers the rig, I want to say maybe 2.5 hours late.
Yeah.
You know, so we had like an hour to set it all up. I'll show you a picture. It's insane.
That's so cool.
And we got it rolling. But even then, it's like, okay, do I want to roll? I'm going to have be in record for 2.5 hours consecutively. That's a lot for a Pro Tools rig to handle. So the other thing was like, do I record at the highest res or not? So during sound check, I set it at 96K, and it was like that. Whatever they did, that rig was a freaking rock. It rolled through.
No deal.
It was just, I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this. So I went 96K, and then like they started the show and I rolled 150 minutes straight with no dropouts, and like didn't even have to use the backup rig. But I mean, I didn't even get to go out and see the show, because like if it dropped out, I had to get it back and record immediately, you know. And so like as soon as that house music came on, I pressed spacebar, Apple S, and just closed it. I was just like, thank God, you know, like don't lose this hard drive on the way back home. So yeah, it's a totally different thing, because there's so much you can't control, you know.
Right.
You know, and so like you try to control everything you can. I've got a couple little tricks and stuff with live records that I do to help kind of like paint the picture. It's all that drum kit. It's all like it all happened, but there's ways to capture it and edit it together and just to make it a little bit more, I guess, encompassing for the listener, to make them feel like they're actually in the venue.
When it sounds like, you know, it's really, really high pressure for a short period of time,
Sure, yeah.
Right? Maybe one advantage of it in terms of pressure is, when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, you can mix it.
And so many live records are a compilation of performances throughout a whole tour.
Right.
That particular record was one night, one performance per song. We didn't run anything twice. It was so like, and that's a testament to like what a talent he is.
Well, and that's what a great guy. I was thinking about the concept of a live record too. He's a guy that would sell well with a live record, because he's a live act.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, all due respect to his first two studio records, because I mean I recorded those and they're amazing, but I think he's definitely in his element in the live thing. You know, I'm super proud of that record. It's his own take on the studio versions of those songs, and it's cool. And I think for his fans, they get to have both versions. They can have the studio record and the live record, and they're totally different. But I'm certainly really proud of it. Yeah.
How much control do you need to have in a live record in terms of what you're miking on stage, and there's the crowd element and stuff? I mean, are you putting a bunch of mics on the drums and just trying to have as much control as possible in post?
In terms of the mics on the drums, it's about the same amount that I would, actually less than I would in a studio setting. But like, for instance, I'll just speak on that one. So if you're looking at the stage, drums are in the center. The bass was over here with a big old bass cab.
Yeah.
Kingfish in the middle with his Fender Twin, which is very loud amp, and his vocal mic pointing right into the amp, and then the keyboard player was over here. and they wanted a real B3 and Leslie. They had a real clavinet mic, and like before they got there, like the Leslie shows up, and I was like, no way, dude. Like, and I knew he was gonna piss and moan about it, but I didn't care, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so that's another thing about it. I didn't know where I was even setting up until I got there, and I like set up in this little dressing room right off the stage.
Yeah.
And there was just this like tiny shower room inside that dressing room. So I was able, thankfully, I like shoved the Leslie in there and like found like a shower curtain or something and like put it over the Leslie, so I couldn't hear anything, during the course of that. I kind of got sounds. Sounds. I mean, I didn't have any EQ or anything, so really, it's just all mic placement and gain. That's what I had to go with. But that helped a ton because I mean, anytime he was playing the clav on that loud amp, I mean, like the overheads are picking that up, and so you had to adjust how you mixed it. I probably shouldn't, but I'm not going to withhold this. Like one of the tricks that I do that like just makes one of the main reasons that record sounds as good as it does, and I did this on all 3 live records I've done, is I actually, after sound check, I get 1-shot samples of that kit in that room. So I'm using samples, but it's those drum samples.
I see.
And so I mix their sounds, so I don't have vocal on the kick mic and vocal on the snare mic. And I rented room mics for the crowd, which is a huge part of it.
Yes.
So the verb on the snare is those samples. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like basically a genius, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
But I intuitively thought of that. I was like, how can we do this? On the first one that I did in Canada with the artist named J.W. Jones, it worked insanely well. And so
you're not just grabbing samples, you're grabbing those samples.
Yeah.
You're making the
Yeah,
samples.
I'm not like full on cheating. And so like I'll take those 1-shots, we'll mix those, process those, and then like every time the kick hits. And it gets tricky, like, because if you listen to his records, he'll do like sections where they're like the dynamic range is insane, and he'll bring it like super loud, and then he'll get to like just a sliver. And in those instances, I noticed I'd bring the crowd mics up, because like the crowd mics will be loud when the song first starts, and then I'll turn them like almost way down, like, and because those crowd mics they're getting a lot more of the PA in the house, and it just creates all kind of phase. This is right before auto align 2. I don't know if you're familiar. That's the thing you can put on drums, and they kind of automatically phase align. This is for any of that.
Yeah.
And another thing I had to do, which was very tedious, but like the vocal separation thing, like that hadn't really come in. So like I had to like word by line, every 18 songs, 17 songs, whatever it is, across that whole record, every single line that he sings, there would be a random like rumble or noise. I'd have to like analyze where it was and like process that out of the vocal take. And that's the kind of care I put into that record. That's why I've had dozens of people message me, dude, this record sounds amazing. So it's like, going back to the AI thing, I think I said this, there's no easy way to greatness. You got
right.
So, yeah.
Right. And AI didn't sample all those drums.
No, they didn't.
So what is, I wanted to ask you this before I guess we're kind of running out of time here, but what is the biggest issue in the music industry to you? Is it the AI thing, or is there something else that you think about?
Wow. The biggest issue. Well, I think it depends on what part of the business you're in. I think the 30,000-foot view is like, ever since sales quit becoming a thing, basically like when I started, we've never really landed on our feet as an industry, certainly not the recording part of it. I don't think, which I can't really speak to the live part because I've always been a studio guy, but I think the industry itself, and that includes all the way to the top, are still trying to define what is our business model, what is our platform. I don't think we really know.
Sure.
And I think that's a big issue. Like if you don't, if you don't really know how to break an artist or know what's going to work, and obviously there's never a guarantee,
Right.
but it's just never really landed, and it never will, I don't think, at this point. It's not like when I was growing up, you could if you were on MTV or on the radio, that was what you all shoot towards. Now, because of the internet, there's not a place where you can get something in front of everybody unless you're playing the Super Bowl. Not many of us get to do that, right? So it's just the wild, wild west. I think that's the biggest issue. And are we getting paid enough? Of course, streams and all that. No, it's not.
Sure.
But I think if it could be solved at a macro level, it would probably help everything. Certainly from, and then I have to pay $800 to go see Coldplay the other week.
Yeah.
And that's not even their fault, because I that's one thing that I would like to see. I would like to see
Did you
bots. Yeah, I did. It
Yeah.
was amazing. I'd seen them 2 other times, but technology's developed a lot since the Viva La Vida tour.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to see bots get out of the space of like ticket sales. I think that's kind of like,
That's a big one.
that is a big one, and
That's
that
a
doesn't
big,
have
big
anything
one.
to do with me. But it's just like, and I know that's not them, because like water was $6, which is not that bad for a stadium show. That's pretty. I've seen it like double and triple, like at certain things. So I know it's not them, but that's one thing that I think. I mean, AI is a huge one, and I don't want to sound like bitter or like scared or anything, because I am a believer that cream rises to the top, and if you focus on
Yeah.
you and being the best version of you. But I do think we are setting a dangerous precedent with AI, not just in music, as a society. My third grader, a few nights ago, it got brought up at the dinner table, and she just, my computer teacher told me we're learning about AI, and I'm thinking, this is an 8-year-old. Aren't we supposed to be in school to teach kids how to use their brain? Not,
Yeah, sure.
it's just kind of like, what are we doing? Like, because all this stuff we've talked about, and I'm here, the reason I'm here, I assume, for, some of the success I've had, I didn't get one of those things by taking the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
It was complete opposite of that. And so like, I think we're setting a dangerous precedent to encourage easier, faster. Why? Like, what's wrong with busting your ass and trying to be great at something? What happened to that? And so
Yeah, it's
I'm
rewarding.
trying to come to terms with it all, to be honest. And I don't know where I am with it all. But I'm going to try to find a way to embrace it and find a use for it, because it's coming, whether I like it or not, or anybody likes it. So you can either complain and bitch, or try to find some way to incorporate it, I guess, into my own workflow.
It is a really interesting issue in music. I just had a music attorney on a few months ago, and I was asking questions about this. And even since the episode came out, some of the answers have changed because of time. And a lot of the things he said, I hate to say this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like where this is going.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would still really love to do in your career? You're an ambitious guy. I know you're thinking about other stuff that you want to do. What is something that you haven't achieved yet that you'd really like to get to?
I want that number one on country radio. I
Yeah.
think, and I want to be at the CMAs and ACMs one day. And I think it's funny because growing up like a fan of rock, when I came to town, I wasn't. I had around like 93 when I was growing up. There was one year I really liked country, then it just kind of fell. I had always kind of just been like, oh, it's kind of not cool, whatever. But then like there's some really cool stuff out there right now. I'm really encouraged by where country is. But I think the greatest compliments I ever get are those of my peers, and I think, those anybody that may have said, "Oh, he's a blues guy," or you kind of want to just show them, and show myself, like being a country town, because country music is pop. It's like it's like the cousin to pop music now. It's the one. So I would like to do that, and I would like to continue my success in blues and Americana, and just continue to write songs with artists, more of that, just kind of overseeing that aspect of it. That's good for me. But I would definitely like to be standing up at the CMAs or ACMs one day, and know that something I wrote and produced kind of made it to the top. I always said too, I wanted a Grammy as a recording engineer, which I've got. Mix engineer, got a couple of nominations, hadn't broke through. Well, the one last year, the Jimmy Carter thing, did win, but I didn't get a statue for that. Mix engineer, songwriter, and producer. I want one for all four things. So I am ambitious, but it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. Either way, I think I've been blessed to this point, and I'm just thankful. And I love giving back to the people that use me to bring their music out, bring the music to life, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to
Thanks for having me, man.
Me.
This is awesome. This is awesome. And, continued success for the pod and all your career and stuff. And, I'm just happy to get to know you, man.
That likewise. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That was my conversation with Zach Allen. If you want to find out more about Zach, or if you want to work with him, I put his contact info, or I guess his website link in the show notes, and you can contact him through that. I didn't put his contact info directly in the show notes. But if you're interested in hearing more from Zach and what he's all about, contact him through his website. Thank you for listening. This is Middle Class Rockstar. I'm Andy Sitto, and I look forward to talking to you soon.